Hello, hello. Welcome back to Loki's Librarian. If you are new here, welcome. I am your librarian, Katrina, and oh my God, I cannot talk today. On Sundays, I do a thing called Books and Booze where I review a book and mix up a cocktail. Believe it or not, I have not had a drop to drink yet today, even though it is only 2:48 in the afternoon. Getting a late start today. Anyways, this month, as we move into spring and planting season, I thought I'd take a look at a wildly underrepresented population, the farmer. Making this week's book, The Sheer Ecstasy of Being a Lunatic Farmer by Joel Salatin. The accompanying cocktail is The Old Farmer. It is 2 ounces of bourbon, 1 ounce of Campari, a ½ ounce of lemon juice, and a tablespoon of fig preserves. So let's do this. Joel Salatin is one of the 20th century's pioneers, 20th, not 21st. He started way back before social media and influencer culture became a thing. Definitely predates Ballerina Farms. So he is one of the 20th century's pioneers of sustainable agriculture. 2 ounces of bourbon. And this book starts with the dirt under your feet. Literally, you can't have a farm without soil, and soil comes from dirt. They are, believe it or not the same thing. Dirt is kind of what I have right now in my yard. It's just sand. Nothing grows there except for weeds, because that's pretty much the only life that'll be sustained on it is weeds. The dirt under your feet. He explains how he built up Polyface Farms, which is his farm in Swoop, Virginia, into a 100% sustainable farm where everything serves more than one purpose and machinery is kept to a minimum. He doesn't say he doesn't use any machines. He prefers his little off-road vehicle to horses. He said something about never getting along with horses. I get along fine with horses. I just can't ride them because one threw me about a decade ago when I fractured a hip, which makes it a little bit painful to sit on a horse, unfortunately. But I like horses. I like horses just fine. He does not. So I don't think he has horses on his farm. Otherwise, he keeps machinery to a minimum, does a lot of the hard work himself. Not necessarily because he's a Luddite, although I think he describes himself that way at one point, but because in some cases, the old ways are just better. All right, not everything new is necessarily an improvement. I mean, my God, look at social media. That's definitely not an improvement over the way I was raised as a kid. I'm very glad most of my embarrassing shit happened well before the advent of cameras everywhere. There's no photographic proof of the shit I used to get up to. In a lot of farming, the old ways are inconceivably better. In fact, he says at one point that if a book is written after 1950, he doesn't have it. He goes to the old books. Now, the good news for anybody here who might be interested in regenerative agriculture is a lot of those old books are now available for free on Forgotten Books. I'm just going to throw that plug out there. I'm not sponsored by them in any way, shape, or form, but Forgotten Books is a grand website where you can get a lot of books for free. This is actually a shaking cocktail. I'm just trying to get as much of the preserves off my spoon as possible. So, let me shake this up and then we're going to talk dirt. So dirt is where he starts, and how do you turn dirt into soil? I probably should put ice in this, but I didn't. Damn it. Put ice in the shaker, but not in my actual cup. Anyways, dirt is where he starts, and how he describes how when the family farm in Swoop, Virginia first started, it was not a pretty picture. And I don't mean that it wasn't picturesque with the big red farm and the white picket fences that people seem to expect of farmland Americana. I mean, he talks about heavily eroded topsoil that has practically vanished, leaving bare rock face exposed to the elements. And you might wonder, what the hell is the problem with that, right? Well, the problem is that rock face used to be covered with a solid 30 inches of topsoil on which you could plant things, because very few things grow 30 inches down into the dirt. Try my cocktail here. I'm not sure if I would have put that much Campari in there. Campari is a really, really salt. It's a bitterant. It's a bitter liqueur, bitter aperitif, if you will. And I'm not sure if the fig offsets that enough. So this is kind of a bitter cocktail. I'll drink anything. His family purchased this farm in, I believe it was 1961, and over the course of Salatin's lifetime, they have restored the land spectacularly. And they did it through all natural methods. They didn't go down to Lowe's and pick up 30 bags of Miracle Grow and, throw it over the rock faces. They let the soil gradually fill in, and over his lifetime, it has done so. So instead of this large bare splat of rock, they now have topsoil there on which they're able to grow cover crops for their cows to eat. heavy composting. They did a lot of heavy composting using chicken, cow, and pig manure for the nitrogen, and then cast off black walnut shells to start with. When the opportunity presented itself, he spotted that, jumped on it, got a whole bunch of black walnut shells for, I think, free or almost nothing, and used that for the carbon and started building up their topsoil. Now, there are pages and pages of resources available online for composting. You can do this in your own little city plot. I have a compost pile going in my backyard right now that we've been using laundry water all day to dampen it because we're having a problem with our plumbing. Long story there. But my point is, you don't have to own a 600-acre farm to get into composting. A lot of people do it for their own little plot of heaven in whatever city they're living in. Works just fine. My point is, all of these pages are available to share composting knowledge for free. I have books on composting. You don't need them. You can find all of this for free online. You can probably find it on Salatin's website, if I had to guess. He's very, very open about sharing his knowledge. He's not a knowledge hoarder who's just going to like gatekeep it. Okay. Basically, all social media platforms will have one or more pages of people sharing their composting knowledge. And as regenerative farming kicks off in popularity, that even gets shared. But it all truly does, at the very heart of it, start with turning dirt into soil. And he tells you how he did it. Once you have the soil, what do you do with it? Well, he rebuilds the health of the land with grass, not Kentucky bluegrass, not golf course stuff, but lovely native grasses that grow naturally wherever you happen to be building your farm. And then you use your cows and your sheep, your herbivore of your choice, to free graze on those grasses. This provides a nice grass finish for the meat, which is infinitely healthier than corn-fed Iowa beef. In the book I'm reading this week, the guy talks about cows don't have gizzards, so why am I feeding them grain? Strong argument right there. Yeah, chickens have gizzards because it helps them to break down the grain. Cows don't. What about the cow poop? Well, yeah, here's the thing. You don't actually have to keep the cows in a barn to have the poop readily available. You just let them mosey through the pastures and poop as they go, because that's what cows do. All right, they have no reason to not poop as they go, right? You move the cows every day to a new pasture to avoid overgrazing any 1 acre. And then after you move the cows, you bring the chickens in behind the cows. And the chickens are perfectly happy to eat the flies, the larvae that accumulate in the cow manure. And while they're scratching for the flies and the larvae, they are also breaking up the manure so it absorbs back into the earth much easier. And you have literally on-site composting right there. Really easy. He talks about working with the lay of the land to maximize rainfall against drought. How do you do that? Very few lands are born completely flat. All right. I mean, it might look it, right? If you look out over a big landscape like Kansas, it's going to look completely flat to the naked eye. But really, there's going to be these dips, these highs and lows, these little dips that are called swales. And they're natural depressions in the land. You just kind of dig them out a little more so that they fill with water when it rains. And if the ground seems too porous and the swales are draining really, really rapidly, you use your pigs to wallow in them. Because what happens is this 300 or 400 pound pork goes up there and starts riffling around in the mud, and it creates this natural concrete. Like the mud packs itself in super tight where the pig is wallowing, creates a natural concrete seal against the porous land. And now you have created a gravity-fed watering system. And it's really quite intuitive and ingenious how he's built this up. Talking about that big red barn that is so synonymous with American farm life, Salatin preaches in favor of the only building that doesn't move on your property should be the house you live in. Everything else should be mobile. He has mobile hoop houses that he uses for overwintering. His cows and pigs mostly live outside during the year, except for the 1 or 2 months when winter gets really bad in Northern Virginia. And then they're moved to indoor hoop houses. And he lets the cows live on beds of fresh hay and sawdust during that time. Once the weather passes and the cows are moved back out to pasture, he sprinkles corn over everything and then sends the pigs in. The pigs will dig up the corn, and while they're digging it up, they're turning over all that lovely compost, and then you have compost for your garden beds. It's fucking brilliant, man. What about crops? Plant perennials, not annuals. What's the difference? An annual is something that has to be planted fresh each year. It's not going to grow on its own. So corn is a really typical, is a typical annual. Perennials are something that's going to pop back up all on its own. Tulips are a known perennial. I've lived in my current house for 16 years. Never once planted a tulip, but the previous owners did, and I have tulips every year. They're beautiful perennial. They keep coming back. I love tulips, but they're not exactly edible. You know what is edible? Dandelions. We can eat dandelions. They're going to come back every year. Asparagus. Yeah, if you Google edible perennials, you're going to get a whole list of vegetables that will just grow forever if you plant them. I mean, if you plant them and take care of the soil in which they're planted. Oh, notation here to water my plants. I already did that earlier. If you take care of the soil. During COVID, I actually had a small garden out back, and I grew things. It was absolutely stunning. I didn't think I could ever grow anything, but there it was. I managed to grow them. And then I didn't do it the next year, and yeah, Nevada sun just baked the shit out of that dirt, and now it's just garbage. So I would have to basically start from scratch. I'm willing to do it, but I'm just saying, you do have to make a little bit of an effort to keep it going. Yeah, if it's something that needs to be seeded every year, it's not ideal. Perennials like fruit trees, berry bushes, roots, tubers, greens, herbs, corn and wheat, the crops that are grown in inordinate quantities because the government subsidizes those crops, are not, as near as I can tell, to be found at Polly's Face Farm. If they are, he does not talk about them in this book. Well, what about the health of the animals? People think that vaccines have been a very hot topic item over the last couple of years because of the aforementioned COVID pandemic. What about the health of the animals? Well, it's weird because it seems like anybody I have ever talked to discusses the evils of big agriculture, right? Everybody's like, oh my God, it's so cruel how they treat these animals, and they shove them in these little tiny houses and they don't get to move around. And, you know, like California did their big push, you know, happy cows make cheese, or, you know, happy cows make happy milk, and happy cows come from California, something like that. Their happy cow ad campaign, right? But I'm not sure their cows are very happy when you compare to how they live at Polyface Farms. Like, if I was going to be a cow, I would want to live there until, you know, my last moments. And yet the marketing of big agri goes very, very deep. And those same people that think that big agri is evil think that Salatin is cruel for not vaccinating his critters. Here's the thing. His critters don't need vaccines. Why? Well, he breeds them to be healthy. Like, literally, if there's a weakness found, he stops breeding that particular cow or chicken. If a cow can't give birth without assistance, he stops breeding her. He does not use artificial insemination, which, hey, I totally get that. People think animals don't enjoy sex, right? They're like, oh, we got to maximize the profit, so we got to use this prize-winning bull and get all the sperm from him we can and breed with our cows. But there's only so many times a bull can get there on his own, if you will, right? So they manually, artificially, they jack him off. They jack off the bull, right? And then they take that one ejaculate and they split it into 10 different samples and then get 10 different cows pregnant from it. Well, what does that mean? It means that one lucky cow in 10 is going to get the golden sperm, the one that should have gotten there first to begin with. The rest of them are getting also rams, which weakens the genetic pool and opens the way to disease. And moreover, if you want your animals to be happy, let them have a little sex, man. Hey, you know, sex is fully natural, right? We all do it. We all have it. Most of us have it. Most of us enjoy it. People think animals don't enjoy sex, but then they're going to laugh over the factoid that a pig's orgasm lasts for 30 minutes. It's a great factoid, right? But if you're a pig who's looking forward to that 30-minute are you going to be real thrilled when someone comes at you with a turkey baster? Salatin talks about the cattlemen who will just let the mama cow who can't birth without help die in the process. And he admits that's a bit much for him. He is going to help the mama cow if she's struggling. But he understands their logic, right? In the dog-eat-dog world of natural selection, that is how the strong survive to pass on the heritable trait of able to give birth without difficulty. Please note, these are farm animals, not humans. Humans, you go all out, right? Why? We're sapient, all right? You can argue all day long about the intelligence levels of various animals, but when push comes to shove, they are not as smart as us. There, I said it. Suck it, vegans. Salatin has been building a healthier life for his neighbors for 60 years at this point. And some of his neighbors acknowledge that. And a lot more don't because they are stuck in their contracts with Tyson Chicken, for example. He talks a lot about big agriculture and what exactly those contracts entail, and it's pretty fucking horrifying, actually. Salatin so believes in his process that he has written books and books about his processes and building sustainable agriculture, and is happy to help basically anyone who asks him. But he won't ship his product outside, I think he said, more than a 4-hour window. Why? Because the product's going to lose quality. Shipping from Swoop to DC is easy peasy. That's 2.5 hours. Shipping from Virginia to, say, Nevada, that's like a 3 or 4 day trip. Somewhere in there, the quality is going to decline drastically, no matter how well frozen it is. So, yeah. He says if you're dedicated to no longer supporting Big Agra, find a local regenerative farmer to buy from. And the internet makes that pretty easy to do. Right? Do Google search for regenerative farm near me, and you're going to get something. You're going to get a hit, I promise. Now, I genuinely like this book. He has a very easy way of communication that gets his point across with lived experience. Okay? This is what I did. This is how I did it. This is why I know it's working. And I already instinctively believe him because, well, humanity has been farming for 12,000 years. It's only in the last 90 that we've been spraying everything with pesticides, herbicides, and fungicides, locking thousands of chickens into tiny little spaces and debeaking them so they don't peck each other, growing single crops over and over and over again in the same space until the soil is so depleted we get a repeat of the 1930s Dust Bowl. Moreover, I've seen it work. I've made it work. My garden in 2020, when the world shut down, I started composting and gardening, and for the first time in a decade, I had earthworms in my yard. It is considerably more challenging to keep that up in a desert urban environment, which is why I'm planting clover this year to choke out the weeds and replenish some of those nutrients and hopefully get a little soil back. My friend Tia, she has goats that she's using to plant grass. Literally, they eat up the scrub and the sagebrush, and then new grass is growing among the pelts. I've seen it with my own eyes. Her neighbor who hates her is going to be super pissed in about 5 years when her 2 acres are covered in the luscious green grass and he's stuck with scrub and sagebrush, basically. So regenerative agriculture does work. Salatin has 6 years of proof behind him as to the efficacy of his methods, and he believes in them so much that he shares his knowledge for free with anyone who asks. You can go to his farm. It's open to the public and talk to them. And the book I'm reading this week for next Sunday, more of the same. Regenerative farmers are happy to share their knowledge, happy to open their farms to the public. There's no skeletons in their closets. They want you to see what they're up to so that you can know where your food is coming from. And I think if you want to get away from frankenfoods, reading his books is a great way to start. I mean, as much as I would love to live on a farm far away from the city, that is just not immediately in the cards for me. Frankly, I can't afford it. I mean, yes, I could sell the house I'm living in now, but then I would have to move to like a smaller condo to be able to afford a replacement property because house prices are just skyrocketing right now. But I can start on my own little city lot and grow my own vegetables. There's a start. I don't have to keep buying vegetables from Winco. And those vegetables come from anywhere in the world, really, and there's no guarantee as to their quality. But I could grow my own vegetables, and then I know what the quality is because I know it goes into my compost, and I know what pesticides I'm not spraying on them. I could probably grow my own small chickens because it's completely legal where I live to own backyard chickens. Don't need a whole lot, just a couple to get eggs, and then I can have my own eggs. And there I've got fresh protein. And I know I can find grass-fed beef in the area because I've talked to those farmers in the course of my day job, believe it or not. So I can grow my own vegetables, I can grow my own chickens, I can keep them healthy and vaccine and pesticide and fungicide and herbicide free. All with tips from Salatin's book, The Sheer Ecstasy of Being a Lunatic Farmer. And that's it for this week. If you liked what you saw, don't forget to subscribe. I'll see you guys next Sunday. Bye.